Creami has been one of my favorite purchases of 2024. I use it almost daily, and in this video, I'm gonna give you all of the details on how to use it, how I use it, where I get my recipes, who I think this machine is actually worth it for spending the dough on. It is a little expensive. And who I think can safely skip the purchase without feeling like they're missing out. But first, let me whip this one up because your girl's hungry. Okay guys, so first of all, you might be wondering, what the heck is this Ninja Creami thing? So per the Ninja website, the Ninja Creami transforms frozen solid bases into ice cream, sorbets, milkshakes, and more at the touch of a button. Ninja's Creamify technology enables the Creami to break down a uniformly frozen block into an incredibly smooth, creamy texture in minutes. From healthy to indulgent, the Ninja Creami can create frozen treats as unique as you are. Oh, I forgot my pecans. Hang on. Note to self, buy more pecans. Okay, there we go. Yes. So this is what it is, friends. So I decided to get a Ninja Creami specifically for breakfast. Your girly likes really thick smoothies. Like, the thicker the better. I want them like, I have to eat them with a spoon, ice cream like consistency. And I kept seeing this on social media. Yes, I was influenced. And I was like, you know what? Let's just give it a go. And I kind of bought it with the intent of, if I wasn't obsessed with it, I was gonna return it, but I'm obsessed. So I use it daily, well, pretty much like Monday through Friday. I literally meal prep these. I'm making a mess. I really honestly don't use all of the functions that it has. They have a ton of settings, and to be honest, I don't really know all of them and what they do. I've used the sorbet one when I've done just like solid fruit, and then the light setting is what I use when I make my breakfast ones. Today here we've got cinnamon pecan pear. It's an overnight oat recipe. I use all smoothie or overnight oat recipes. I'll fill you in on where I get my recipes in a minute. But I do know that the different settings have to do with the different fat and sugar and water consistencies and components of the recipes themselves. When you find a recipe, they'll usually tell you what setting, so it's not really something you need to figure out yourself. I don't really use it for like quote unquote regular ice creams, or more like, yeah, regular ice creams. And here's why. I usually just buy regular ice cream, or if I do make recipes, you guys have seen I've made these before, no churn ice cream, really thick, really rich. I don't know, it just seems like more of a hassle than just having some in the freezer. It's fun to do on occasion when you have like a specific recipe that you want to try. Sometimes I'm a part of some Ninja Creami Facebook groups. Sometimes they have really good looking ones and you want to give those a try, but I don't know, it just seems like more of a hassle. Because we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but they don't necessarily, you can make them then refreeze them, but it is kind of like, we're making this amount. You can just kind of adjust to how much you're needing in the moment that day easier with just like regular ice cream. So, but that's just me, that's just me. You know, I think I might have more pecans. Hang on. We need more. I knew I bought some. There we go, better. Okay, I am going to finish this, and then we will go sit down and have a chitty chat. I'll go over more detail, my routine, my recipes, all of the gizmos and gadgets that I have with it, how to use it, tips, answer questions, but let me eat this. It's like perfect consistency. Okay, catch up with you in a minute. All right, guys, let's get into the nitty gritty. So first, let me go over the tools that I use. So obviously we have the creaming machine itself. Then I did buy some extra cups that I use. I actually like these ones better. They were pretty affordable on Amazon just to have some extra ones available to make in batch. Like I said, I make the full week. I actually like these ones better than the ones that actually come with the creaming machine. I have those. I use an immersion blender. You don't need an immersion blender. You can do it in a regular blender. You do typically need to blend the stuff before you put it in there. Like, you're not supposed to use super solid chunks. Although I have done just like dumped a can of peaches in there. I don't think you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to like blend it up. So I have an immersion blender that I use. And then I didn't show you guys this. Still has the tag on it. I don't really use the lid, but this is a, Ooh, sorry, that was loud. It's called a Hydra Peak, and it just keeps it cold. One thing about having these for breakfast is that it can take kind of a while to eat. So I kind of just leisurely eat them if you don't finish them. This is gonna keep it cold for a really long time and keeps it from melting. So I really like this. I can link to this as well. These are all over like the Creami Facebook group. So I have one of those, and then all of the recipes that I usually use a smoothie recipe or any of my usual overnight oat recipes. They both work. And the ones that I use are all in my app. You can download them. Hi, Theo. You've seen a lot of them here on this channel. A couple of my favorite ones are the strawberry cheesecake one and then the shamrock smoothie. Those are both smoothie recipes. And then what I made today is technically an overnight oat recipe, the cinnamon pear pecan, the chocolate berry coconut is also really good. If you download my app, you can find all of the recipes there. So next month we have a couple more dropping. We have an orange Julius one and then a fruity pebbles one. So good, you guys. When you're in more of a fruity vibe, I feel like usually I'm in kind of a chocolatey vibe, but the Fruity Pebbles one's a really good fruity one. And like I said, I love the strawberry cheesecake one, but you can snag all of the recipes that I use. Like I said, I mainly use it for breakfast. So those are the recipes that I use, but you can also Google like Ninja Creami recipes. My husband likes to make just ones with milk. I would recommend using some milk that has fat in it. On the weekend, he'll make some of those just to have for funsies. Then you can add just like syrups or any flavorings or anything like that, some fruit to it if you want. But that's where I find my recipes. And you can find them too. Okay, now let's get into my Creami routine. So like I said, I use this mainly for breakfast, so this is kind of like what my routine reflects. If you use it for more desserts or something like that, obviously your routine will be different, but essentially what I do is I pick 2 recipes for the week, 2 different flavors, and I will make 3 of one flavor and I'll make 2 of another flavor. And then I'll kind of like alternate days just to give it some variety. I'll have one Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the other Tuesday, Thursday. I will make them all on Sundays. I will do a little bit of a creamy meal prep session where I will make the 5 for the week. And then put them in the freezer and boom, I'm good to go. My breakfasts are prepped. Now there are a couple adjustments that I will make to like the recipes, specifically as I'm making them in the Creami versus like making them as a smoothie or as an overnight oat. I typically like to do some cottage cheese. So if the recipe calls for Greek yogurt, I like to add maybe like a 50-50 mix or all cottage cheese versus Greek yogurt. I just find that it stabilizes it more, it makes it more creamy, thick. So I like to use that. I will also add, I do this for smoothies too, so this isn't really a change, but I will add some pudding mix that gives it a little extra sweetness. It helps thicken it a little bit. But then also you can use a ingredient called xanthan gum. Now, this I learned from one of the Creami Facebook groups. You guys, if you get a Ninja Creami, definitely join some of the Ninja Creami Facebook groups. Just Google like Creami community or something like that. They'll come up. But this helps in 2 ways. It helps to thicken it, and then it also helps it kind of melt slower, but that can also stabilize it as well. Okay, so then a couple freezing tips for you. They say you need to freeze it for a full 24 hours for it to work or to be, you know, how it's supposed to be. I have done it from just like 8 to 10 hours and it works just fine. It really kind of depends on your freezer. It's not recommended to use them in a deep freezer, but if they're like at the front and it's not super cold, you might not have a great texture. I've also started freezing after like my meal prepped Creamies without the lids. And what that does is it helps prevent, if you freeze it with the lid, sometimes and this depends on the ingredients, but it can form like a hump, like I don't know why I'm holding this up, like a bubble kind of thing at the top, or just kind of like a lump. That can hurt your machine, but I've started freezing them without the lids and they freeze pretty level. I don't really put the lids back on, but if you're like, I don't want crumbs or something getting into mine, you could put the lids back on after it's frozen. It'll prevent the hump. Okay, so then when I'm ready to make them, I will take it out of the freezer and I'll run it under hot water. Again, this is something that I learned from the Creami Facebook groups. And what this does is just helps loosen it around the edges so you don't get, so the blade gets everything and you're not left with like ice around the edge. So I'll run it under some warm water, pop it in the machine, and then spin it. Like I said, do mine, the kind of like protein rich recipes typically are recommended to be done on light versus something that has more fat and sugar. There's different settings for that. So I'll spin it, and then once it's done, I'll take a butter knife and run it around the edge. Again, this just makes sure that when you pop it back in the machine to respin it, you don't have any of those ice chunks. So again, learned it from the Creami Facebook group. So I'll run a knife around the edge. If it's super thick or powdery, add just like 1 or 2 tablespoons of milk before you respin it. I haven't been needing to do that recently. It really depends on the recipe. Today I didn't do that at all and it still got like pretty, I don't know, soft. But sometimes I'll do it. And so I used pear. I noticed that a lot of times the ones that I make with banana, it gets very thick, or apple. So it just really depends on your ingredients. But if it's super, super thick, you can add just a small amount at a time, and then I'll throw it back on the machine. I'll respin it. I don't really use the mix-in function. I prefer just to like what I do, because I don't like things getting like soggy, and it does kind of pulverize them a little bit more than I'd like. So I will just like, if I add pecans or cereal, I'll often do that. I made an oat recipe this morning, so I always try to add a source of carb. But if I did a smoothie recipe like that strawberry cheesecake smoothie, I'll add cereal to it or crushed graham cracker. I prefer to just add it as I go so it doesn't get soggy. But you can also use the mix-in function. I just typically don't. All right, guys, that is pretty much honestly my whole Ninja Creami routine. All right, guys, I grabbed my phone for this. I asked you on Instagram what questions you had to make sure I answered everything. So we're gonna do like a little rapid fire Q&A here to round out this video and make sure you got what you need. Okay, first question is what setting I use to blend the oats. So when I do my overnight oat recipes, I don't let them set. Like I don't like make overnight oats, then, you know, let them sit in the fridge overnight. I just put them right in the blender, blend it up, boom, you're good to go. And then I do it on the light setting. Okay, how do I get it thick and creamy every time? So this really comes down to the ingredients that you have. You gotta have fat, you gotta have some sort of sugar. I see in the Creami Facebook groups all the time people saying like, this is so powdery, I just used a protein shake. That's got no fat in it, that's got no sugar in it. It's probably, well, not much, it's probably gonna give you a really powdery, thick, icy consistency. So having some fat and sugar in there is gonna be helpful. Fat and sugar are not bad, it's okay. So having those is really helpful, and plus it makes it taste so much better, so much more satisfying. And especially fat, it's filling, right? So I always make sure I have some sort of fat in all of my creamies, whether it's in the cottage cheese that I'm using in it, whether it's adding, you know, nuts or something after peanut butter. And then the pudding mix and the xanthan gum that I talked about earlier can also help. Okay, how do you prevent it from being like dust? Same thing here. The reason it's probably turning out like dust is because there's not any like substance to it. If you're just using just like almond milk and protein powder or a protein shake, that's probably gonna happen. You can add more liquid, but I think it really comes down to making sure there's some fat and sugar in it. Some people also use like a couple tablespoons of cream cheese. I haven't done it, but I think it's the same idea as using like cottage cheese with fat. Some of you asked for recipes with cottage cheese. I don't think you need certain recipes for it. Like I said, just use cottage cheese in place of yogurt or anything like that. You can just add some into a protein shake if that's what you want to do. But don't be afraid to deviate from recipes, guys, whether it's for the Creami or anything. A lot of times you can make these small adjustments, minus like baking, which is truly like a science. Like you can kind of just adjust things. If you want a specific recipe to follow to start with, I get it. Like I said, I would recommend the strawberry cheesecake one that I have in my app. I'll link it in the description. You can adjust that. You can use cherries, you can use peaches, whatever you want, but that'll be a good like base for you. And then you can kind of adjust as you like. Okay, vegan recipes. So again here, I would say I don't think you really need specific vegan recipes. I would recommend using, in terms of like liquid, you can use coconut milk. Something with some fat in it will be helpful. And in place of yogurt, you could try using like silken tofu or something like that. That could be really helpful. But like I said, I don't feel like you necessarily need specific vegan recipes. You can, but just like finding any recipe and using those swaps will work. Do you need protein powder? No, you do not need to make anything protein rich in this machine if you don't want to. You can just use half and half and make some super creamy stuff if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you can just make, like I said, fruit. A lot of people use these in like the fitness community to boost protein. It's a fun way to get some protein. It's a fun way to eat breakfast, right? It's fun, but sometimes the world doesn't need more protein rich stuff, and it's okay to have something that's not protein rich or super high in protein. It's okay. Regular milk will be just fine, or any liquid. Do you let them sit out before you put them in the machine? No, I don't. My husband does. This is something I feel like people kind of go back and forth, but I just run it around under the hot water, and that's what I do. So no, I personally do not. Do they store well? Not really, to be honest. And that's why, again, I just like prefer a carton of regular ice cream from the store, because you kind of got to commit to making the whole pint, and you can respin it, but the texture is not necessarily the same. You can. I don't have the deluxe. The deluxe has like a feature where you can just spin the top or just spin the bottom, but they do, but it's not my preferred way of eating them, like respinning. How do you clean the blade? Either just by hand with soap and water, or I'll put it in the dishwasher. I don't know if they're dishwasher safe. I'm assuming they are, but that's how I do it. Can you make these recipes as a creamy in a blender? So it's not gonna be the same. You can add more ice, reduce the liquid, add some of that xanthan gum, the pudding mix, that'll help thicken it. And that'll give you like a really thick smoothie. Blend it for a full 3 to 5 minutes. Go light on the liquid and just add slowly more in, as just to kind of get the ice going. You'll end up with a really thick smoothie, but I think the texture is not comparable, and why I'm like obsessed with this. If it was just very similar to a blender, I probably wouldn't have kept it. Okay, the final question. Is it worth it? It is kind of expensive, you guys. You can find them. I think I got mine on sale when it was on sale at Target. But if you're a casual user and you're just gonna use it for, I'll make some sorbets or something here and there, probably not worth it. If it's something you're gonna use every day, like for breakfasts like I do, then I would say, yeah, it's worth it. But it really just depends. I mean, I do think it's a privilege to be able to buy typically I would say it's between like $150 and $200 machine. But like I said, for me, I feel like it's worth it every penny, because I love my breakfasts. I think they're delicious, they're fun, and I use it almost every day of the week. So for me, it's worth it. Like I said, if you're just a casual user, maybe not. A couple of you guys also asked if it was easy to use. Yes, it is so insanely easy. I literally just use like 1 or 2 settings, but also the instructions. And there's so many things you can, like tutorials if you have questions. My blade I couldn't get the base out, and I just Googled it, and they're so popular. There's so many things online that can help you if you run into any issues. But no, it's pretty self-explanatory. Whew. All right, guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. I get asked all the time about Creami, so I have no idea how long this is gonna be. I tried to pack as much info as I could in it, just to make sure that this is like, you wanna know any questions about Colleen's Creamies? Here you go. And if you like this video, if you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. Around here, we talk all about how to live a life of no food rules, where it feels non-restrictive and balanced and feels good both mentally and physically, focusing on sustainable habits and living your life with flexibility. So that's what we've got going on around here. Thank you all for joining me in this video, and I will see you in the next one. See you later.